computer, lights.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday. And we got Pepper. Look at Pepper.
Hi.
So,
yes, fresh off of the moratorium on certain things because I was trying to get stuff done now. That's
right?
done. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to bring my coffee with me. I will be right back.
Yeah, that's
By
right.
the
I'm going to sit here and adjust my music, apparently.
Well,
I'm not
and I'm
seeing
gonna
me
leave
on
this
the mixer.
Luca. I'm gonna leave the Art of Luca from Disney Pixar as a teaser. Hey,
Good
Brent.
morning, Brent. I find it weird. I'm not seeing the mixer moving. Really strange. Huh. Hey, but you can hear me just fine, Brent, right? Shrug. So, okay. Well, I will talk a little bit about what I was doing yesterday because I completed it. So moving along here, I'm working also on my Foxtail Comics logo because I think I need that to be fixed. But here is my completed, almost completed, which is why I'm working on. Oh, that didn't help me any. I'll make me be big. There we go. So while we're waiting for Pepper to come back, here's the newer version of my main page. If you guys were with me yesterday, you saw me kind of get to the point where I had all of it mostly done. I've done some other little bits here. I added things that tell me exactly what I need to be, where I need to be with stuff, like what's the size of the text when I put the text in there. How big should the gutters be? They should be 4 of these units wide. My brush should be set at 20 points, and my tone should be set at 60 LPI. And so that's what we're kind of looking at here. Then over here, you see the instructions that say that this is the bleed. This is the US comic bleed, and this is our text safe. I tested it with a page of Macross. Right. No, that's not it. There we go. And you can see that it fits really nicely. Don't use Rumiko Takahashi to figure this stuff out because she's horrible at all kinds of stuff. So,
what am I coming in on?
I finished so yesterday I found out while I was doing page 2 of my comic that my comic pages were taller than they were wide. And so here, I'll bring you back into the minimize section so they can see you talking. So I had to go through and redo my master pages so that they were the correct size. But there were a few things that I had been meaning to do to my main pages anyway, because I've been using the same main page for so long that you joined at the end of the world. I've been using the same pages for so long that I haven't done all the things I've been meaning to do to the main pages. So things that I added to this main page are, color alignment bars at the top, because these will probably be printed in color at some point in time.
Yeah.
And then the the page number boxes needed to be added, along with a ruler so that I can start getting certain things aligned correctly. But at the bottom here, I added the things that I've been meaning to do for a long time, which is just some guidelines to remind me how big I'm supposed to do stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what text point am I supposed to have whenever I do text? So like I keep doing, if you look at my comics, it's inconsistent. Sometimes it's 8 points, sometimes it's 11 points, and it fluctuates all over the place. And that makes it, especially from page to page in the same book, and that would happen really. So, and then of course I never remember what I'm supposed to set my brush for, and I never know what my tone is supposed to be at. So every time I do all my toning and stuff like that.
Now I understand the Rumiko Takahashi reference, because
Right. Well,
she
doesn't.
not. Her
She's
English translation ones are all over the map,
right.
but her Japanese ones are just as bad.
So I added also a U.S. comic bleed, which is something that I have needed for a long time, and that's because I do all my pages in manga style, which gives me this square as my operating surface, but this inner line here and this inner line is an actual US comic page superimposed over it. So I know if I bleed past this any critical information, it will be trimmed in a US comic book.
Well,
So
here's something I can tell you right now. If you wanted to do this, you can. If not, that's fine. The printer that I use, Comics Wellspring, they have manga size.
Well, I might do that anyway.
They print manga.
Nice. Now, printing manga sized is definitely something I would do. But having it being able to work at really what I just want to know is anything in this little, and it's not even that big of a gutter, but anything in this gutter could be trimmed off in a comic book page if they redid my art. But what I was doing here was this is a page of Mikimoto, who's, I always say Mikimoto is sort of my master. Whenever I do any kind of work, I try to strive to be like Mikimoto. This is actually a page from Macross, or Robotech as it's called here in the US. But you can see that he did everything right on the line, right? Here's the number of the page, and it's right in the number box. All of his boxes, except for the one that's full bleed, fit really nicely inside all the boxes. So we've tested everything to work perfectly. And then the only thing that's weird is this. He put a text box out here, outside of the safe. And so I'm kind of like, well, that's interesting. But this is a right-hand page, and he knew it whenever he put the page number down here. So he knew it was a right-hand page. What the heck is going on? It's been blowing up my phone. Oh, there we go. Gotcha. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, when I brought in Urusei Yatsura, it doesn't fit at all. It's like, I mean, it does. If you look at it, it works because all of the text is inside the safe. But she totally this text is just barely inside the safe, and it goes all the way up to full bleed and goes all the way down to full bleed and would be even trimmed at the bottom down here. And so I was like, wow, Rumiko's like just a mess. So anyway, it was.
Well, what I find interesting is that you bring that up and you're using a Lum comic page as an example, because Lum is like one of her first comics.
It's totally
and Rumiko Takahashi actually broke a lot of rules.
She did
when it came to manga publishing. She pushed the boundaries on a lot of different aspects, including text.
Yeah.
Because, we get it in English translation, but someone actually told me what one of them said from Japanese translated to English when she was reading it in Japanese, some of the wording does not translate properly.
Oh yeah. Well,
Um,
Rumiko Takahashi also really loves puns, and the puns
yeah.
won't always make it.
well,
Ataru, like this character here, Ataru from Urusei Yatsura, is look out. I mean, like if I were to throw something at you, I'd go Ataru. And it's it'd be like a warning to say you're about to get hit. Heads up, So his name is like literally heads up, um, you know. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's a thing, it's kind of funny that's kind of the way this works. Anyway, I only put this in here because the other thing that's great about Rumiko Takahashi is that she does a lot with minimal brushstrokes.
Yeah.
So I did make one page, but it's now on the wrong. And when I did it, it was like, well, I don't feel like I feel like I got to redo this. So I have done one page, this page, and it doesn't look bad at all.
It looks like they're adversaries.
Right. That's not what I wanted. So I'm going to have to redraw it. And I know it. And that's fine.
I mean, I don't know the full story. You do.
Right.
However,
but
if I
you're
was
the
looking
second
at this,
person to look at the picture and go, it looks like they're adversaries. And I'm like,
okay, well, let me finish my thought process on it.
Okay.
Because, I do know that the characters are supposed to work together, from my understanding of how you explain the story.
Sure.
So having them looking like that is more of like a foreshadowing. There could be a time in your story where they actually butt heads a lot more often. And no one knows when that's going to happen besides you. So keep it. It's still a good picture.
It's a great picture. It's a wonderful picture. But the character in the front is transferring to a different ship. We won't see her again. Or at least in theory, we won't see her again. B, she was sort of the mother of the ship because this is the previous ship's AI. So it doesn't, and though they are grumping a little bit in the episode, it's really more of a Chang is doing the please let me go back to sleep, and Jen is doing the no, we've got to go, so you have to get up now sort of thing. So the only adversarial thing, good heavens, I'm going to have to turn off my phone because I'm getting it's getting totally blown up. So I'm going to turn it off.
We don't want it to be blown up because,
no, but it is kind of aggravating
because
I keep turning off my phone and then forgetting that I turned off my phone. And then my wife texts me later on and says, why didn't you answer your phone? I'm like, because during the show, I literally got like 50 texts. Oh, man. Anyway, so though I totally appreciate it and everything like that, it's all good. I consider this a good experiment in how it's supposed to work, but I think I would rather have this be Chang seated in a chair right here and Jem behind her, kind of with her arms on the chair, I think would be a better pose. So we'll go for that.
Also, is she moving? She's moving to another ship, right?
Right.
What if Chang ends up becoming blowing up against that ship for some type of weird reason?
Well, anything is plausible, but I would hate to feel obligated to have to answer to this foreshadowing down the road just so I can save this picture.
I'm trying to get to the point of save it.
I'm not going to set fire to it. I'm not going to burn it or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
it's a good image.
the
I
real
don't want you
thing
to
that was
throw it out.
cool about it was I learned how to do this toning, the zipatoning.
Yeah.
See the zipatoning here? That's what's really important here.
Mhm.
There is a button right over here in this called tone, and you can click it, and whatever grayscale is out here turns into tone, and it turns into zipatone. You can control the LPT, which is one of the reasons why I have to put the LPT down here at the bottom. So, oh, that's the other thing that needs to go on the other one is this final size print stuff, so that it'll know, so that I can add that in. So I need to put that on there. But don't worry about it. It's okay. I mean, it's not like this piece is going to, be set fire to or anything like that. I just don't think it represents. And the way manga works, the splash page is usually talking about the episode that it's in, even if it's not necessarily about the like. In American comics, splash pages tend to be the first panel. In manga, they tend to be an unrelated picture to the first page, but related directly to the entire story. So I really need something that says these two care about each other, because that's the whole point of sort of the story. And this actually looks exactly opposite of it. So I'll keep it. And who knows, maybe you're right. Down the road, we're going to have, the ships are conflicting. Well, that's cool. Then I'll pull this one out then and make it splash page at that point.
I can see it now. The former AI basically gets a virus.
Right.
Starts corrupting. But the virus, the way it corrupts is before you're completely degraded as a hologram.
Right.
It turns your morality switch to the opposite of what it is.
That's interesting.
I mean, well, think about it. Like, if you're talking about an AI that started out as a kindergarten teacher,
right?
Like, obviously, this person would have been very on the good spectrum of morality.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Huh.
And so basically, going up against someone like that, she would, and being an AI, she may kill all organics and anything that that didn't suit the AI need.
Right.
So,
okay. This is so
anyways,
weird.
I'll stop talking because,
No, it's okay. For some reason, the mixer wasn't connected to the mixer.
What?
Yeah, now the mixer's connected to the mixer.
Anyways, so I had placed a wonderful book on my thing here. So I'm patiently waiting to get to that, but yes, Brent. Yes, this is what I'm here for. I think I'm just like I'm just an idea factory for people sometimes, and I don't have to use the stories. I can give them to Guy. I have no problem with that.
Right? You're like, I got a great idea. I'll use it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
I'm just
did you want more? Did you have more to show?
No, that's what I'm working on right now. Is I'm trying to finish up. I just wanted to show that I'm doing work over here. It's just that it's not done yet.
Yes, and my stuff is at the printer.
Which did we mention that? Because we'd like to mention that. That's like a big deal.
It's been like 2 years, and I haven't produced the book yet, and like everyone's been waiting for it. And so now I have a deadline of December for the second part of what I did that's going to the printer now. What's at the printer is a limited run. I just want to point that out. It's very limited because we did not do a Patreon. This is all out of our own pocket. This is not like everyone's like, but indie stuff costs so much, and I'm like, there's a reason for it. There was a lot of cussing involved.
did a pretty good pricing structure though for comics.
Well, actually, it's going to be retailing at $10. So
how many pages?
It is, including covers, 32 pages. So 28
That's not
pages
bad.
inside, and in the front cover, I drew. The next part is going to have a watercolor front cover that I drew. But also at the same time, once we get those two parts done, we will now be sandwiching them and making a graphic novel of those two books. So if you miss the first one, you miss the second one, we will be doing probably a larger print run of the combo together at the beginning of maybe next year, or maybe like within the first 3 months of next year, we're hoping. I just have to get the pencil pages done now for the second one, and then go to inks and all of that stuff. And I have found out that I share something with Rumiko Takahashi when it comes to
you don't fit all of the thingies.
I basically, I don't follow the rules very well.
Yeah.
I push I think I want to say all my words and everything are pushed very much to the limit of the edges of where I need to put them. Like literally on the line. Several times.
Right. So Superior POD does 7.17 inch by 12 or 10.12 inch dojinshi size, which is way cool. Actually, I didn't even know they did dojinshi.
Which one is this?
Superior POD. Here, allow me to share my screen once again. All right. So I've been kind of looking.
Wait, is that Comics Wellspring?
Is that what?
No, that's not it. That's
no.
Perfect
This is
Bound.
Superior POD. It's out of New York, upstate. The guys are kind of gruff, but they're New Yorkers, so I actually kind of appreciate it because they're gruff, and I know exactly where I'm coming from. But they do. I just did one book, but it's 28 black and white, 4 color. You're doing all color, so I'm curious. Yeah, it's still $5 for one, and that's just one book. It's not bad. I always do 4 and 28.
Is it 28 pages that they're talking about perfect binding?
Oh wait, 28 and 4. 28.
Sorry, is it perfect binding for 28 pages?
Yeah, I mean this is 28 and 4 is what I'm doing. That's my normal layout. Can you read this at all? Here, let me bring it up. There. Make it bigger. Okay. I'll just get rid of Pepper. Yeah.
No, it's fine. No, what I'm trying to ask you to confirm that is, because I've done printing and publishing, and I've actually done stuff graphic design wise for this type of thing, printing. Yep. Most of the time, people don't like doing perfect binding under 60 pages. So that's why I'm kind of like, are you serious? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because the reason for it being is most likely they have to cut everything by hand.
They don't. They have a machine for it, but yeah.
No, I mean, so when you perfect bind, they put
what
indicators.
If we do saddle stitch? And look at what saddle stitch is. Maybe it's cheaper. The only problem is they don't have tankobon for saddle stitch, but that's okay.
Well, Yeah. Yeah.
Saddle Stitch is markedly cheaper for 32 pages.
Yes, Brent. We're having a small Friday artist check-in on Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's not bad at all. And for me, it's really cheap. Well, it's about the same for Saddle Stitch or Perfect Bind for me, about $2.50.
Yeah.
Which means if I sell them for $5, mine for $5, not yours, mine for $5, then it would be
actually technically, so your wholesale price would have to cover the cost of printing too, and
printing and shipping.
Price and printing and shipping.
Yep.
And your actual sale cost would have to cover so that like you could buy 2 more to replace it. So technically, you want to times that number by 4.
Right. So if we order 25 books. Yeah. That's the thing
25
about
books. 25 books for me costs less than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing about Superior POD. It's great for you need 3.
Yeah.
It's not so good for we need 100 because they just fix the price. That's actually how they make it work.
Yeah.
The printer is the same whether you ordered 1 or whether you ordered 50. It doesn't start dropping down like other printers.
Yeah, the printer
Which
that
is great because it's good because you use Superior POD for 1 to 10. I just need 4.
I don't care who you are, but that was some very good coffee.
So
I drank 32 ounces this morning. I'm ready to go.
Now you're rigged and ready to go.
I'm
still drinking my coffee.
What?
I'm still drinking mine.
Oh, by the way, we ordered our print run. We ordered on Monday night. It's already been shipped out.
Nice. So what one do you use?
It's called Comics Wellspring. I believe Comics is, I think they spell it with an X instead of a C at the end.
That's in fact exactly what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Grec-O Printing.
Yep, that's the parent company. They're based out of Michigan. They're really cool. They're really good customer service. Very personable. And that's what I think I enjoy the most out of, because any problem I've ever had, they've always fixed it almost immediately. And they don't charge me extra for it.
Right. But that's the thing. As long as I'm doing 32 pages, because like this first story is 12.
Mm-hmm.
The second one's probably also going to be 12, so it's going to be 24. So this is going to be a 3-part to get to 32.
Yeah, their perfect binding is a minimum of 60 pages, however. I just want to let you know that.
That's totally cool.
But they do have manga style printing.
Mm-hmm.
They actually legitimately have like a product for manga.
Sure. Yeah.
If you haven't found it already.
Oh, I'm dinking around here already on their
you
page.
can share your screen. I have no problem.
Fine. Be that way.
Well, no. Just take me off and put the screen on.
I'm right. Yeah. Make everybody sick. Okay, I'm done. So here's their normal comics.
Yeah.
Spot foil?
Yeah, they offer spot foil. They also offer sketch covers.
Oh God.
Yeah, they legitimately cater to comic book artists. And I believe they have a fulfillment. They have a Kickstarter fulfillment now as well.
Interiors are black and white for me. Because hey, there are some benefits to being a manga artist. And that's
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Not a problem. I'm providing a new file. Lightning fast.
Yeah, you pay extra for that.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But
so with foil covers, because dude, foil cover.
Yeah.
It's gonna be $144. That's gross.
Yeah, and they have a minimum of 25 per order.
Well, I can do it. So they can have an ad in there.
Yeah, if you do your back cover page, you can notice a quite noticeable difference usually.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
And frankly, I wouldn't mind because honestly.
But like I said, cool. if you're trying to get a fast printing done with good quality, this is the company that I recommend.
Yeah, this would be 25. Well, what's the shipping on it usually?
To Colorado, if you do say you want fast turnaround, but you can have some leeway with the shipping for cost. They use UPS, so I want to say that you're probably going to be looking at around anywhere between $20 and $30.
Right. It's
with shipping.
It's roughly the same price, $5.76 per.
Yeah.
And that's with blue foil cover.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Now, if you just do regular cover, it drops.
You
knock off $100.
Yeah, that's $100 for the foil cover. It'd be worth it for the special edition.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad.
No. Yeah, that's $1.50 per. For me now, again, like I said, I do all black and whites.
But if you go through them and it's $1.50, then you could actually legitimately say $5 is a good price for your book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like with the other one, I'm looking at those numbers that you're showing me and I'm like, you're losing money on that. As much as we are artists, we have to actually see the business.
It's 64. Side. So they're $250 each over here.
Yeah.
But here are the couple of things. One, looking over here, the interiors are either full color or black and white. That's one of the problems we've got. Right.
So you can contact them about that.
Actually, it should be 32 interior pages plus 4 color.
Yeah.
For cover.
But if you go to full color, I don't believe there's any price difference.
There's quite a bit.
Never mind. I take it back. I print in full color.
Right. So for me at 32 pages running, it's 50, which isn't bad. For 25, that's about. Yeah, but it's not mixed. So I couldn't do watercolor for the first 4 pages being watercolor. I couldn't do that, which is
so
traditional in manga.
Yeah, it's one of those things of I've had to I know other people that have actually asked to talk to them about the printing process.
Sure.
You can do that.
If I asked them to put an extra cover in there, we'd be fine.
So from my understanding, the only problem that I have with them in their ordering process, if you have multiple colors, multiple covers, you have to do an order for each individual cover.
Right. Well, no.
With the interior pages included in that.
What I mean is a cover and then another cover on top of it.
Okay.
So that you end up with your color pages inside, and then you do what they're doing with the Macross the first. you just put a nice big painting, and then the table of contents page is in full color. And then in the very, very back, the last page is like a mecha design or something, and that's also in full color. And then you can do that. And then you just put a jacket around the outside of that. So that's possible too.
Okay.
So yes, it's become artist check-in, but the truth is we're not really doing artist check-in now. Now we're actually talking about business. Like,
yeah,
which is
and
also
we will save the rest of this discussion for Friday.
We don't have to. I'm just saying that this becomes a thing.
Well, I'm just saying that this is a lovely marker drawing right here.
It is a very lovely marker drawing.
And I believe this is a watercolor.
Hang on. Ariel. Oh,
sorry about my camera.
I was going to say the camera is still pretty low res. I can kind of read that this is forward.
I don't know what's going on with my camera. Like, it's really starting to bother me. Wake up. Stop that. All right. Well, you know what? It's fine. I will switch it over. Just turn that camera off, and I will switch it over to my iPad.
Okay. Are we switching to iPad? This one. There we go.
See, folks, a lot better.
Much better.
Much better. And then the picture that I was showing before is this one.
Right?
Now, if anyone watches Luca on Disney Plus, I just want to say there is an actual like art, like behind the scenes art inspiration, like 14-minute short that basically goes into what I'm actually showing and where all of these images were actually created.
Right.
Because like you have things like this right here in this book.
Aw, I love backgrounds.
And these backgrounds were made in an actual city in Italy. These people inspired by real people.
Makes sense.
And I think I will have to meet up with you with this book to kind of do it a little bit more justice, Guy. I'm trying to find the one. There's an image in here that I think is really awesome to see, and I'm trying to find it right now. A lot of this book though like has a lot of spoilers and teasers, so like I just don't like want to show everything. Like, but it's on sale. You can buy it on Amazon. So like this is my favorite concept page for the main character.
Aw.
Trying to get the camera angles properly. When he's like human and all of that stuff. So some of the character drawings as well, not all of the character drawings in concept art actually made it into the book, and I know that because one of the people that were on the on the cartoon, had some concept art that was not put in this book. So,
Gotcha.
But this is a page here that gets to like the final design of the human form. Right here.
I love the things I like how he's like hunched over, and you know he kind of has sort of the kid like.
Oh yeah, no, that is probably
posture.
the biggest.
Posture is what I was looking for. I love when they illustrate stuff like that.
Yeah, they have like the most interesting angles. Like, however, I will say this is actually probably my favorite character out of all of it, the entire movie. This character is played by Sacha Baron Cohen. Right here.
Right.
So this part is the storyboard for the whole segment that he's a part of, but this is the concept art behind it. And the reason why I'm showing this for Watercolor Wednesday is majority of all the coloring for the concept art has been done in watercolors for this film.
Right.
Majority. If it wasn't watercolors, it was watercolor markers or just straight up markers.
Right.
Very little digital illustration was done, but there were some digital illustration stuff done as well. But like, I want to kind of get to more of the other stuff. So since you haven't seen the film, what have you heard of it yet? So, Guy,
Not actually a whole lot. So, I mean, really, honestly, by the time we actually get together and hang out, I will have figured out, or I will have watched it by then. So,
okay.
yeah, so a 60-page manga size. I'm still doing the math over here. 60-page manga sized is only like $3 a piece.
Yeah.
And that's not bad at all. Huh. So let's go over here and take a look at what we got going on. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this is them interacting, the two boys, Alberto and Luca.
This may be Watercolor Wednesday, but we're not getting to the watercolors necessarily. However, Pepper did say the word watercolor a minute ago.
Yes. Actually, no. Okay, so this is my most favorite part of the entire thing. Someone did this, and I think, Guy, you can appreciate it. It is a Studio Ghibli style concept art for the movie.
That's awesome.
Luca on the back and Alberto in the front on a Vespa.
That's cool.
So I just want to say, like, this is the type of stuff I'm trying to get to. But at that moment, that's probably the last thing that I want to share. So,
there you go.
We will be done with this. Me and you, Guy, will have to meet up for the actual, like, looking over of the book.
Right.
So yeah, and now we can get back to Watercolor Wednesday, what we're supposed to be here for.
Oh, there we go.
So.
Oh, good. The mixer's up and running again. I updated OBS like 2 days ago, and now I'm kind of like, did OBS did it break? What's going on? But I can't tell if music's playing. Can you hear the music?
I never hear your music, so like.
Hey, Brent, do you hear music? Let's see if Brent hears the music, because it's not showing up on the it's not showing up on my board over here. It's playing. It says that it's got the speakers for my computer plugged into the output, and I can hear the music coming out of my speakers on my computer, but I don't see it moving on my board. Not you. I don't see it moving on my board. So I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. So there is that. So, okay. I'm going to work while you're painting, which you're actually doing Watercolor Wednesday.
Yeah.
I was supposed to have a page that I was going to do yesterday that I was going to watercolor today. That was the battle plan. But then yesterday I realized that my master pages were completely borked and needed to be redone. And so I spent the entire day redoing them, in between making a gajillion phone calls. As you can tell, there's a lot of traffic going on my side. So,
well, I mean, you have a lot of family stuff going on, so I don't want to like go in.
Yeah, that's exactly.
If you don't want to go into it, that's fine. I just it is what it is, and
It is what it is, but
yeah.
it's not just that. We've got we're trying to refinance the house at the moment, and they've screwed up our solar panels, and things are going all over the place. But yesterday I did a brilliant job, I'm just saying, with the solar panel thing. We've been having problems with the solar panel guys, and he called, and we were like, we're going to quit, And so he called to say, wait a minute, how can we keep this? And I was like, well, I guess, I don't know. I mean, we have to fix the problem. And he's like, I fixed the problem. That's not going to be an issue anymore. And so we were going to refinance the house, and we have to replace the power box on the outside of the house because it's the original 1978 power box from this house.
Oh.
And some of the breakers in there don't even have switches anymore on them. So it's like, we got to replace the power box. And he's like, oh, well, we can do that. We're putting solar panels in your house. We can put a new box on there. And I was like, really? Because that would save us like $5,000 right there. And he's like, yeah, we can do that. And then my best friend is an engineer. So he's a U.S. Army engineer. So I was talking to him yesterday, and he's like, well, if you're not going to be putting that money towards the new box, why don't we talk about getting forced air or air, what is it called? Something pump, heat pump or something like that. But the idea is that it's air conditioning and heating, because the other problem is that our furnace is also from 1978, which may or may not make it for another 10 years. It might run for another 50 years and never have a problem. Or the heat exchanger may crack tomorrow and we'll all die of carbon monoxide poisoning. So there's that, So we're the home improvements are, will the house burn down because the breaker box is ancient, or will the house fill with carbon monoxide because the furnace is ancient? We couldn't fix both of them, but then by last night, I had managed to do both of them. It was very exciting.
Just be aware that
company. What?
Just be aware that the heat pump thing, it gets less efficient the colder it is outside. So like if it goes into the negatives, so they often measure how optimal your system is working by the differential of the air temperature going in versus coming out. So if they say, oh, it's like a 20-degree difference, so the air coming in is being cooled by 20 degrees when it comes out the vent, it's usually really good. So if it's really cold out, like negative whatever degrees, then your differential will start to shrink, and you might find it's not heating very well, and then you'll end up buying like a heater or something to heat the room.
Right.
Or something.
Well, the ones that we were looking at have heating coils inside them.
Okay, so it has like an assist.
Right. It becomes less electric efficient because the heating coils have to turn on, thus using more electricity. But it makes the heat inside the box so that it still makes the transfer of heat and does its job. So, because actually that's exactly what James was saying. It was the same thing. He's like that. Because I was like, what's the catch on this? Because you get air conditioning and heating out of one unit for about $3,000. And I'm like, what's the catch? And he's like, well, generally they don't work well under about 32 degrees, 0 degrees Celsius. But the new ones now have heating coils in them so that once it drops below 32, they just use up more electricity. And so I was like, oh, okay. In reality, we're probably going to have fewer and fewer days of cold as time goes on. So, but the big thing is my wife is, a Californian hippie. So she doesn't want an air conditioning unit because of the Freon and things like that, which I know that they don't use Freon anymore. But the point is,
I was about to say, because like
the impact on the environment is higher for an air conditioning unit than our swamp cooler, right? She likes our swamp cooler. It's low impact on society and stuff, or low impact on the environment. So it's it's a harder sell. That's why my best friend was like, hey, I've got this idea for you. Because he was saying, since you're putting panels on the house, she won't, we won't be making that much of an impact on the electrical grid either, which is another one of her big things. So when it gets inefficient, you can at least say, electrically inefficient. At least you could say, well, yes, but the overage on electricity is coming from our panels and not necessarily from the grid, and therefore from coal plants, which is something she concerns herself about.
Surprisingly enough, though, if you actually look into coal plants in the way that they're set up, it's state by state is always different. However, coal plants have actually become very efficient at not putting pollutants back in the air anymore. Especially if you want to take a look at like some numbers. Some states are better than others.
Sure. And
however,
really, she's talking about in sort of an in general, not a specific. She's trying to keep us. She's trying to keep us as low a footprint as possible.
Gotcha. I believe they also make an option for AC units. The last time I looked into it, where it's not like a swamp cooler, but they can be made to like suck air from the outside when it's the right temperature, so that it's not engaging any of the other equipment. It just pulls the cooler air from outside to cool your home, instead of trying to use energy to refrigerate your home when it's already cold outside.
Right.
So, I mean, you can of course always open the windows too, but I know not every room is access to that. So.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is, usually I run with the windows open until we get into about July or August, and then I close the windows and turn on the swamp for most of the time, and then we get back into September and you can open the windows again. Colorado's great. I mean, the temperature comes down into reasonable, and since we're sort of deserty, you can pretty much open all the windows at night and the cool air will immediately, the air outside's pretty cool. So, there's that. I don't know. I mean, I figure even when we had air conditioning as a kid, I remember Mom wouldn't turn the air on until the middle of the day. She'd wake up in the morning and open every window in the house, and then read her newspaper, drink her coffee, yada, yada, yada. And then at about 9, 10, or 11, somewhere in there, she'd start closing windows. And then by 11 o'clock, she'd turn the air on. So
there's also a cool tech by Mitsubishi AC units. There's a Skywatch. I'll send you the video on it.
Okay.
And basically, they take a different method where instead of turning off and turning on and trying to keep your home cool by using a whole bunch of electricity to cool it really quick and then let it heat up, what it does is it keeps it at a specific temperature and is pretty much always on, but that actually uses less electricity. The guy that's doing it he's off grid, so everything's solar and battery. So he had to have the most energy efficient thing, and that's what he ran into. So I'll send you that video. You can check it out.
That's cool. Yeah, Brent's talking about some kind of ice cooler which freezes water overnight through thermal dynamics and then uses that frozen ice to cool the house during the day. Which that might work really well here too, because the same reason. I mean, even in the middle of summer, we still drop down into the 70s at night. Yeah. Unlike, as you two know so well, Texas and Florida, where at night it's still 91 degrees, and you're like, how did it do this? How did it do this?
Yeah, there's only one problem between Texas and Florida. Depending on where you are in Texas, you have the same issue as what I'm about to say. At night, it's still hot.
Yes.
And it sticks to your skin. And there's bugs.
Florida actually gets a reprieve from that because it's a peninsula, so the ocean breeze.
Yeah, so you've got the breeze going over it, the Gulf breeze goes over it, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but
whereas Texas dies, the wind just blows inland and stops.
Yeah, I've driven up to like Alabama and Georgia, and it was like 98 degrees at night. I'm like, this is hell. Why would anyone live here?
Right. Right, that's just like, why would you do this? Oh my god. So, and of course, in 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, a week from today, we leave to go down to Houston. Which, by the way, I should alert you guys. Yeah, but Arizona and New Mexico, that could still work in Colorado. I should alert you guys that I'll be gone for a week starting next week. So we'll be taking a break because I've got to go down to Houston. So
Sorry to hear, by the way.
thank you. I appreciate that. Although it was expected. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but it's never
No.
easy.
No.
No. So, but yeah, so we'll be heading down there to wrap up everything. And that's what we're going to be doing. And I was saying I'm doing a victory lap on this one because I think this is the last time I'm going to make this drive.
Mhm.
I think from now on I'm going to fly down there. If we need to go down to Houston in the future. So I'm doing this as a victory lap. We're going to be doing this one more time and that's it. But we've been going down there and doing this drive since I was 8 years old. So for 40 years, I've been making this same drive. Of course, obviously, I wasn't driving at 8, but my
Really?
parents.
Because I thought it was impressive that you said that you
Right?
started doing it at 8.
You know, just like my little guy, I didn't have legs long enough to reach the pedals at 8. Anyway.
Is there at least anything good in Houston, like good food or anything to go?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like every place. It's got its good points and its bad points. But in the middle of July, it's going to have a lot more bad points.
Yeah.
Sadly, I'm already not looking forward to that part of this.
It's kind of like when people ask, like, should I go to Disney during winter or summer? And I go, look at the prices of the hotels.
Right.
If you go during winter, no one's there.
in Florida in September, like people that would wait to run out into the rain and they would like wait inside before they summoned up the nerve. They
Right.
do the same thing with the heat. You'll see people waiting at the door and like mentally readying themselves to head out into the heat to get to the car.
Yep.
Because they can't summon the nerve.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the thing is there's a thing about Florida, and like I try to do it here in Colorado because it's instinctive. Like when you learn to drive in Florida, and I think they do this in Texas too. So like this is not just this Florida specific thing. Where we grew up, they planted a ton of foliage, like tree canopy like things, in a lot of parking lots.
Yeah.
So that it provided shade for your car. Now, majority of cars in Florida are white for
Yeah.
a reason.
For a reason. They're white or silver in Texas too.
Yeah.
Although every so often you'll see that guy with a black car and you're like, what are you doing, dude? And I guess
or the
you know,
red cars.
Yeah.
The red cars as well. Like they get super hot as well.
Yep.
The best parking
My little
spots
red car
are the
got
ones
pretty
up
hot.
front.
Yeah. So basically what I'm trying to say is the parking spots that are up front are probably the worst. People do not go for them. It is the parking spaces right underneath the trees or in the shade that will be filled up first.
Yep. Yeah.
And
yeah.
if it's a short trip, be prepared to be circling the parking lot for a while before someone comes out.
Right. So yeah, that's a thing. You were asking, Bill. You know what I really love about Texas is Tex-Mex and barbecue. Tex-Mex is a unique version of sort of Mexican food mixed with Southern cuisine, which
You mean Southwest food?
yeah, sort of like it's Southwestern. Well, no, like the Southern stuff. Like you'll end up with like fried okra and stuff like that in it, but it ends up being this really neat sort of variation on Mexican food too, which I like a lot. And then barbecue in Texas is not sweet, and that's something that I really, it's tangy and spicy. So
We
that's something.
like a local Texas style barbecue.
Yeah.
Here. So
Yeah, 'cause
Bill would like that.
To me, I have a real problem with barbecue sauce that's sweet because I was raised on barbecue sauce that's tangy and spicy and not sweet. And so we, my dad's shop, my dad had a frame gallery, and when he got out of the business, he sold the shop to the barbecue place that was at the end of his little center, because he had the whole center. He was the landlord of the center, but his shop was on one side, and my grandmother's fabric shop was in the middle until she retired. And then on the right side, or the far end, was this really neat little barbecue. Um, and since then, they have grown to take over the entire building now. So they've got the whole building, and they do burgers and stuff like that. We always go in there because it used to be Dad's shop, and it used to be my grandmother's shop, and now it's a barbecue place. But it's the same barbecue place it was when my grandmother and my dad were there. So we talk to Daryl, and we say hi to him and everything like that. But I love their barbecue sauce because they've got. I'm apparently choppy, so I apologize for being choppy. But they've got really good barbecue, and it's so good. I'm looking forward to that. That's when I get down there.
Nice. Yeah.
So
the reason I ask is like we occasionally have to go back to Florida, and like every time we go, I make sure to hit up specific restaurants that I've been missing since we left. So
right.
We always go and hit up all those things, and then we're good.
If you manage, if you're heading to Florida, unless you drop down, like head down, say go through Salina and then go down.
I will not go through Texas on our way back to Florida. Every single person I know always gets stuck, and I am not about to get stuck in Texas.
I never get stuck in Texas, but I guess I always get stuck in Texas technically, because every time I go to Texas, I end up staying in Houston for a week or a month or whatever. But that's a different story. So actually, where we're from is a city called Conroe, which is about 40 miles north on I-45.
Gotcha.
But that's where my entire family has been there.
I will be right back.
You'll be right
you
back.
can continue. Bill's going to be here. He's listening intently.
Intently. But yeah, Conroe is this little teeny town. It's not little anymore, but it used to be little. And my grandparents used to live there, and my entire family lived in that town, and so it's but it's got that great barbecue place. But yeah, if you ever go through Texas, I say Tex-Mex and barbecue is what I would get.
Even better than Colorado, because when we moved out here, we thought it was better than anything ever in Florida that we ran into. So.
Well, I find the Texas stuff to be better than Colorado stuff. Generally, when you talk about Tex-Mex, we have our own stuff out here that's more Californian style, rather than like New Mexico style, Southwestern style. I feel like we get a little bit like our tacos and stuff like that tend to be more California style. They're not as hot. They've got a lot more vegetables, which that's not bad at all. I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. Just I observe that it's a different style. We've got kind of there's like some kind of connection between Texas and Colorado. People keep moving back and forth between. So I think that some of the Tex-Mex places here actually are legit Tex-Mex. So if you've been getting, I mean, it's like, I think that might be the same kind of thing. But yeah, barbecue. I have a hard time finding good barbecue here in Colorado because it's all sweet. Yeah. We're getting the South Carolina style, which there's nothing wrong with that except that I wasn't raised on it. So to me, it tastes weird. That doesn't taste weird, but it's one of those, it's just not the way I like it, I guess, which is absolutely fine. But I like tangy barbecue. And like the McKinsey's, which is the place that I'm talking about in Conroe, they've got a jalapeno version of their barbecue, which is nice. So it's got actual fresh jalapenos ground into the barbecue sauce. And that makes for a really nice, it's tangy and hot, which I like things that are, spicy hot and stuff like that. So it's a thing. My wife, on the other hand, is like, that's all you, dude. So she's like, okay. I'm like, But that's all right. I get my own barbecue sauce,
Mhm.
so it's all good. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Texas has a unique culture, so sometimes I feel like even the food culture is somewhat unique.
Mhm.
So that's kind of cool. But yeah, Troy, my co-host for Geek Tank, we often talk about the variations in food throughout the South. Like every zone has sort of different things. So you like barbecue sauce is great. A great example of it. Depending on where you are in the South, you
Mhm.
get like variations of whether it's got molasses in it or whether it's running more a hot sauce. And that gives you that sweet versus that spicy tangy, you know. So it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll ever convince Pepper to drive through Texas though.
I probably could.
Probably could. There is a really interesting place in Amarillo, if you ever go there, which has it's called the Big Texan, and they've got like a 72-ounce steak, and like that's their thing is the challenge, and they'll challenge you to eat the steak with salads and like 4 courses and all this stuff, and if you do, it's free. If you don't, it's like $100. So that doesn't necessarily mean you should do the challenge. They actually have pretty decent steak. If you go there and just get like their normal steak and stuff like that, it's actually pretty cool.
I think if it was just a steak, I could do it, but not to pile in all the other stuff.
Yeah, and of course the deal is you have to finish it all,
Mm-hmm.
and every like 5 years someone does, so it's not like it happens very often.
When we were in the Springs, there was a Brazilian restaurant that brings the meat around on a thing, and it's like $30 for each person. So
Right.
every time I went, I was like, nope, I'm not putting anything else in me but meat, and I'm getting my $30 worth. And then everyone else would go to the salad bar and get carbs and this and that and the other, and they could only eat like a little bit of meat. And I'm
Right.
like, see, that's the trick. That's how they get you. The meat is the expensive thing,
Mm-hmm.
and the salad's cheap. So you're filling up yourself on cheap stuff and paying $30 for it. I'm like, no. I'm eating the meat.
Right. Well, that's totally what I would do too. I'd be like, meat.
Yeah.
I'm a carnivore. I'd never survive being vegan or vegetarian. That's like one of my great fears in life is that as I grow older, you're going to have to be vegan or die. I'll be like, well, guess I'll just start writing my will now.
I joke that we're already 2 steps close to being vegan because half of everything we eat doesn't have meat in it.
Yeah.
I don't classify myself that way, but it just kind of turns out that way, that basically what I'm eating had no meat in it. So I'm like,
Yeah, well, I mean, life does what life does, and sometimes you have to do stuff. But I don't think I would ever choose to be vegetarian or vegan, although my wife might. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
she could do that. Ghost Hand's saying that they've got similar styles of barbecue down there in Brazil.
Oh.
Yeah, but Brazilian barbecue, that's its own like awesomeness. There's like a certain amount, like there's a style to that's like, because I had a lot of Brazilian barbecue when I was in Japan, and I noticed that it's got its own recipe, it's got its own style, and it's really good. It's like I keep saying I'm going to travel the world on my stomach. I'm just going to everywhere I go, I'm like, I want to do this food and I want to do that food. And I'm like, maybe I should not concentrate so much on food. But yeah. So, yeah, because they've got garlic bread on a stick. I wonder what garlic bread or grilled cheese and garlic bread on a stick. Oh, okay. I see. That's kind of interesting. Huh. See, that's the other really fascinating thing when you talk about things like Ghost Hand's talking about like cultural stuff coming from Brazil. we only get like a small section of it outside of these countries. Every other country sort of only gets like a segment of it. Then you get into the country and you're like, wow, this is really fascinating what you do. Like Japan, you know, when we talk about sushi here in America, you think of the rolls, but the maki, which are rolls, those same rolls in Japan, that's a different thing. It's not what sushi is, you know. And so, like, because of the translation as it comes out of Japan and goes everywhere else, what the Japanese would call a maki is becomes what we call sushi, and it's a completely different critter. And I find that fascinating, you know, how we kind of truncate it, you know.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting all the time. I find all kinds of stuff interesting. I don't know. It's always amazing to me. Okay, we've run out of things, I think. We're petering out.
Yeah. We're waiting for someone to come back. But
Yeah, we're waiting for
at the moment.
Pepper to come back. So I'm going to keep working on this guy. We know a couple of things we want to work on here. And I want this. So 5.5 by 7.75 is what we're ultimately going to end up at. So we will write that down real quick. Oh, yeah. See, now I'm all hungry. Because that sounds awesome. All of that just sounds great. So, okay, we're doing, so final version of this needs to be, I had the old one open. I'm going to open the old one and get that in here.
Oh, I could tell you about an idea that I was thinking about for your storyline.
Oh, okay.
That I thought was original. Now I realize is probably not, in that it kind of exists in two ways in Star Trek.
Okay.
So I was thinking, with hologram technology and AI and all the stuff that exists in your story and even in Star Trek, I'm surprised that there's not some culture that basically has this thing where when you're a captain, what you do is you go into like this system that kind of regresses you in age and makes you relive life with an AI that you think is real. And you basically grow up together and they become your perfect partner. And that perfect partner is any gender, whatever is your perfect partner. And then that's actually the AI of the ship. And so you're essentially married to your ship. And that person exists as a hologram, and you interact with them and talk with them and do everything. But you're essentially like tethered to your ship. And then when, like, if you die, your ship would eventually, like, would probably work for a period of time, but eventually the AI would decay and eventually pass away on its own. But that would also make interesting story interactions with, like, people that, because you'd probably have to go through, kind of like the Trill have to go through an extensive psychological profiling. You'd probably have to do the same thing, and there'd probably be people that skip that and probably end up creating like psychotic AI ships that like go rogue and kill their captain and whatnot.
Right.
Or you'd have
So
interesting.
it'd be kind of, you said Trill, and I was thinking it's almost like you have an AI symbiote.
Yeah.
That's cool. Actually, I like that idea a lot. It would be illegal in the Unity, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't run into somebody like that.
Yeah.
I mean, by the constitution of the Unity, they can't do that. But I have thought that there would be people who are married. The AI and a human would be married. like they fell in love and they got married, and that's just the way it goes. And I think that at some point in time, you're going to have those kind of things happening. So you could have a situation where the AI is married to the captain of the ship. That'd be kind of cool. So you could even have the same structure, but I actually am intrigued by what you were talking about initially, which is you raise them together effectively.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
In my scenario, you are an adult, but you go into like this machine, they wire up your head and whatnot.
Yeah,
and then they make you relive your life and insert this character into your life at all the key points.
Right.
And the AI actually grows and learns from you and you from them, so that they become your perfect person and you to them. And there would also be interesting. It could be part of the storyline that culture felt it was also a plus in war and battle, because if the captain was killed, the ship would probably go on a vengeful tirade and destroy a whole bunch of other enemy ships.
Right.
So, which is kind of taken from history in Italian, ancient Italian. They actually encouraged their troops to sleep together and form very tight bonds, because then when your partner got killed, you would go on a tirade.
Yeah. Kind of the opposite of the logic of why we couldn't have, for the longest time, women in the military. Mm-hmm. For that very reason, they were worried that the men would go berserk if the women were killed, which mm-hmm. turns out that's not exactly what happens at all. In fact, none of that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
actually, there's documentation of it happening in ancient Italy, but
yes. Again, no. But U.S. soldiers, male U.S. soldiers, do not, in fact, go berserk when female U.S. soldiers get killed. They're very sad, but they're sad when when their buddies get killed. Anybody, So, yeah, kind of like the movie Her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, and that's the thing is, I feel like where we are at Bellatrix Rising is 500 years past Her, that movie, right? So you already have AIs that are people. They're developed. They have their feelings. They have, and they evolve as children and things like that. They can just do it really fast. And so you do end up with relationships between AIs and humans. You'll end up with all kinds of stuff. That's just normal, So.
And you can you'd also have very emotional moments, like where a ship is going to be destroyed and the captain refuses to leave and go down with the ship, because it's not just his ship; it's his love,
right,
or her love. Yeah,
right, exactly. Although the AIs themselves live in little like suitcase sort of things. So you can eject the AI out of the ship.
Oh, okay. Well, that one, yeah.
So you can at least, abandon ship, grab the AI, click, and throw it into a shuttle, and boom, out you go.
But he would probably have to hang around, because if she's controlling the ship, she's got to make sure everyone gets off.
That's a different story. Yeah, like if the ship needs to still do stuff,
mm-hmm.
wipe on a USB. Okay, that's funny, actually. I like that. Wait. You can sit there and say, well, here's my wife,
You could have a funny moment where they're trying to frantically pull out the USB, and on screen it comes out, would you like to eject?
Right.
Yes!
That'd be awesome. Oh, well.
Well, I mean, honestly, that leads into another style of joke that would actually be fun to do. Would you like to eject?
Right.
All right, your host is back. I'll leave him to you.
Oh, it's all good. You can keep.
It's all right, Bill. If you want to talk, it's fine. I'm just doing some doodles right here to kind of get a concept art.
I got to do work.
Yeah,
I
figure you have to do work, but still, we love talking to you if it helps any. I appreciate the. I appreciate the thought process, because that actually, I think if it's okay, I might actually run into that as a story arc.
Yeah, go for it.
where they bond them together. As a side note, to the folks out there who are watching and who watched, I Bellatrix Rising is all of the stories that I wrote over the last 25 years kind of merged together, all the ones that fit together. But one of the stories that I had written a long time ago didn't quite fit. And so I had ejected it from the story. And then later on, I thought, actually, it'd be nice to bring it in. And that was the first starship, the first starships that humans made when they invented anti-gravity. And so, because my thought was, if you could invent anti-gravity, the moment you can make anti-gravity, your first spaceship is effectively just going to be a repurposed submarine, because it's already airtight and weight doesn't matter. So they'll just bring a submarine up onto land. You've got all the parts to recirculate air, everything like that's already ready. All you need to do is wrap it in foil so that it's got heat ability, and then you could have a spaceship. And so I was like, yeah, but that doesn't fit with the arc of Bellatrix Rising because, this was supposed to be nobody was off of Earth yet, and then I thought, well, no, wait a minute. What if these guys were on the verge of this and they had already launched a couple of spaceships and were, a couple of submarines. They've launched a couple of submarines when everything went down. That would give me the ability to have different cultures of humans, which are on stars and stuff like that. So you trip over them and you're like, there are humans here? How are there humans here? And you're like, but wait a minute. They don't belong to the Unity. They don't belong to the Commonwealth. They don't belong to the Beehive. So where did they come from? Which would be kind of a fun sub-story. So I'm bringing that back into the story. But it also means that you can have different variants, like what Bill's talking about, where you have people who aren't following the Constitution of Worlds, which is what we established at Silver Cove, or First Landing.
The similarity to Star Trek, by the way, is that episode in Next Gen where it's a living ship that psychically reached out to that guy, and then he ended up staying with it.
Yep, Tin Man.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep.
So it was like, after thinking about it, I was like, oh no, wait, they did do that. Oh, damn it.
The Foley artist on Star Trek was talking about that episode because he was like, we had to make noises for the inside of the ship. And so one night I came into the studio and I had eaten pizza and I just stuck the microphone up against my stomach and recorded that. And that's the sound of Gomtu. And he's like, I never told anybody because I figured they'd be all grossed out. And I'm like, what do you mean? That is like brilliant. And that is such a Star Trek thing to do. It's like, so when you watch that episode next time, know that that's the Foley artist's stomach after eating pizza. So
transporters were just glitter in some liquid and they swirled it.
Right? All of that's the best part about learning the behind the scenes of Star Trek for me, is the ingenuity of those guys just coming up. We've got to come up with something space agey. We will take glitter and put it in water. And you're like, what?
That's filmmaking in general. Like in Alfred Hitchcock, when you see the murder and the blood going down the drain, that's not like today where it's like a red substance. They just used chocolate syrup because it was black and white and you couldn't tell the difference.
Nobody would have known any different.
Yeah.
And it would have had, and it has the same, Troy.
Viscosity.
That Troy uses chocolate syrup all the time with red food coloring, even today, for blood, because it does a good imitation of coagulating blood. And it looks really good. And so he uses that all the time for his movies because he makes, I don't even think we can call them B-rate movies. They're much lower than that, but they're fun. And he does them all the time.
Hey, I like C&D movies. Don't crack on them.
Right? Exactly.
If anyone's seen Thanksgiving, you'll know what I mean.
Thanksgiving?
Yes, it's about. So it's a Thanksgiving Day horror flick that's so comedic. It's funny.
It's so bad.
It's so bad that it's funny as well.
I
What
actually agree with
happens
you,
is
Ghost Hand.
someone's driving home or driving to a Thanksgiving Day celebration, and they have a turkey in the vehicle. They get into a crash. Something happens. The turkey touches some radioactive waste, becomes reanimated, and goes on a killing spree of a group of teenagers that basically ran the car off the road to create him. And let's just say there is a sex scene with the turkey.
I was about to say something's about to happen here. I can tell.
Yes, that happens.
And so, Ghost Hand, I absolutely actually agree. The concept of human colonies and politics, there will be politics. There's going to be a lot of politics wasn't that interesting to me when I was younger, but now that I'm older, politics fascinates me, and the interaction between states, if you will, is fascinating to me. I'm how countries interact with one another, or in this case, different groups of stars, because you'll have the Bellatrix star group, and then you have the Commonwealth star group, which is in the Hyades star cluster, and then you have the Beehive star group, which is in the Beehive cluster, and then you have like these other groups like the Deistati, which are nomadic and wander around, and you have. But I also think it's interesting if we thought that there would be ships that left Earth in the 5 to 10 years prior to the catastrophe that destroyed Earth. They could be moving at 0.9 the speed of light and show up at another star 250 years later. It'd be the same people, right? They literally left Earth last month to them, but because of Einstein's theory of relativity, general relativity problems, it'd be 250 years later. So you end up with, since this is 500 years in the future, you could have anywhere in the 250 light year range from Earth. Any one of those stars could be populated by these ships and still have 250 years of culture to develop there. So, that's kind of cool in my book. I realized that I could I can have that in there, these rogue human elements. And that could be also really cool. So, and it also allows me to have more humans, which for me in this story, the important thing is that aliens have to be alien, like truthfully alien. So the Jacine are like, they're creatures that live in the atmospheres of gas giants, and stuff like that. So all of these aliens have to be alien, but that makes it hard because the reason we use humans for everything is because it's hard to sympathize with a block of ice or something like that. If your alien's a block of ice, it's like the block of ice is mad. You're like, it's hard to sympathize with it. So they make us all like wear funny bumpy foreheads for that reason, is because then you could still be mad, you can still be sad, you can still fall in love, all the things that make stories work in our world.
I often wonder with a lot of these sci-fi series, they always go with the premise that human beings with enough time will be able to deal with different visual differences between other species, that we'll just be fine with it. And meanwhile, they're all humanoid, so they're all similar on that level. But in my mind, I'm like, we could barely deal with our own differences in our own species. So,
in Star Trek, that was intentional.
Huh?
In Star Trek, that was intentional.
Yeah.
That was Gene Roddenberry saying that, by the time Star Trek comes around, we'll get over this.
Yeah.
This petty, I don't like you because your skin color is different crap. That was him. That was his statement.
So I wonder if in the future, like if we have to deal with insectoids or like octopus-looking creatures or whatever, if we can't get over those things, what if we have some kind of thing where it's like we have holographic representations and you don't actually ever visually deal with your teammates that are different looking, but you deal with their avatar
Right.
that will look like you, and to them maybe they have the same issue, and so they deal with a hologram that's your avatar that looks like them, and that's how they get around it.
I actually think that we wouldn't have a problem. I think that there would be a problem if they were insectoid, because I think we have a repulsion towards that, or reptoid, because we have an instinctual repulsion. But I mean, honestly, cats don't look like humans, and we are more than happy to snuggle with them and rub faces with them and all the weird things that we do.
I just want to point something out. Like, if we actually did come across an alien species that was cats, I think they would have
around the world.
Yeah.
I think there would be a ton of people going, "We want to be your friend."
You're right.
For real. Like, we want to be part of your society. Like, that's
so,
for a
so
deal.
if one of them's annoying to you, do you just pull out a laser pointer and
My brain. I just want to tell you, Lieutenant Bill, that you're doing it. And Bill pulls out a laser pointer and, wait, what? Off goes the general chasing the laser pointer. Works every time, says Lieutenant Bill.
But I found that as an interesting story plot about having avatars to deal with species.
I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah.
Right? The Cat from Outer Space. I love that. That was a good movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
So Ghost Hand, I actually specifically addressed that in Bellatrix Rising. We're going to specifically address the fact that they don't communicate traditionally. Like, we generate sound from our mouths, but like the Jacine speak with color codes on their shell, and that's how they speak. So they've got chromoforms. But what happens is we all have translators that are built into our skulls at a very, very young age. So, or the humans do anyway. So they hear the colors being produced on the Jacine. And the Najor have learned to bellow. So they build a pocket of air inside them, and then they expel the air through their mouths, which then vibrate, so they can make the same sounds. So they just go through, it's class 101 or whatever of speaking. They go through a speaking class whenever they have to deal with the general public so that they can talk. But some Najor can just use translators, and they'll just wear a translator around their neck, and that speaks for them. But, some like to actually learn how to speak. So like, oh, I'm going to learn to speak. So they usually start out by making fart noises, I'm sure. That's totally what ends up.
You could have a species that... You could have a comical moment where you have a species that has certain appendages that look like genitalia.
Yep.
And then you could have one of your crewmates that is kind of like the Blanche of the group, where everyone's disgusted and they're like, ooh. And they're like, damn it, so-and-so. Go back on the ship.
Yep. You can totally have that. I also feel like, though, I mean, this is one of my big statements. They're not hung up on sex like we are. So nobody would be offended. They'd be like, hey, you have a whole bunch of penises on you. It's like a thing. They just observe it. And I think like everybody might go, huh, that's interesting. And you just have all the things, like if you met somebody with eyeballs in the back of their head or whatever, we'd all be sitting there going, so you can see people sneaking up on you then, huh? It just becomes kind of a talking thing. So they'd be like, wait a minute, are those used for reproduction? And if so, can you have sex with more than one person at the same time? that's kind of cool. You know, they'd just be talking about it like it'd be a thing that'd just be like, that's cool. You know, in my culture, I'm specifically working on trying not to have that. I feel like that's the silliest hang up we have as a culture. I feel kind of like it's like the root of a lot of problems too. Like because it's a hang up, people will get interested in and offended by other people's sex lives, which really has nothing to do with anything, you know.
Well, sometimes I just don't want to hear about your about certain people's sex lives. Like, if I don't want to see someone naked, I don't want to know about your sex life.
Well, yes, but, and I'm specifically talking about, you know, present company. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people get hung up on like homosexual culture too, is because they have to think so hard about these things, and it's like that's really not worth the energy we're putting into this culturally. It's not worth the energy. I mean, freedom aside, like the ability to do your own thing aside, notwithstanding, why is that important to people? You know, why is it such a hang up? What's going on? You know, people get out of the shower, they're completely naked, and everybody goes and freaks out. They were just taking a shower, they were getting clean. You know, we should be like congratulating them for being clean. You know, yay, good job, you got clean. You know, it's like shouldn't have anything to do all of that stuff. Anyway, that's my thing. So I'm just like everybody has like a statement, a flag that they wave. That's the flag that I'm waving, which actually is proving to be a thought process with this particular story that I'm writing right now, because I have established a long time ago in the character design that Captain Chang does not wear pajamas to bed. Well, this whole scene takes place in her bedroom and she's getting out of bed. And I'm like, well, now I've kind of messed that up. I'm going to have to make two versions now, the prude version and the actual version, because Chang's not going to care. You know, that's part of the whole point. That's all right. This story here, and I've totally rambled, but this story here is a side story. It's not the actual story. So it's establishing universe. So I think I will go on ahead and just do it the way it's supposed to be done, and then establish universe. And if people can't handle that, that's their problem, not mine. Zinti from Wing Commander was a cat race that we warred with, and then we're allies. Yep, the dog races run into werewolf prejudice. Right. So Ghost Hand, that's actually referenced in a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, and a very famous, particularly interesting and entertaining scene where they're trying to accomplish first contact with this, or they're trying to observe this race of people who haven't yet gotten first contact, and so. But the problem is that Riker gets into an accident and they've got him in the hospital, but he's clearly not their alien race. And one of the nurses does exactly that. She's like, I've never slept with an alien before. And that's the whole thing. So it's particularly humorous. It's played for laughs too, so that's a thing.
I just want to point out that I swear sometimes they use Riker as a way to get like Captain Kirk like energy to that show.
They did.
Yeah.
But props to Jonathan Frakes. I've got to give him lots of props. Not only did he play the sex symbol, but now he's playing the, round
the
and
dad symbol.
Dad, and he's totally good with that. He's not tied to Riker being the sex symbol. He's really happy with the idea of he settled down with Deanna Troi, and they had children, and he's the dad now. You know,
I still think that I still think they should have had more than 2 kids. I'm sorry. I still think that they should have had more than 2 kids.
okay. Any particular reason?
Because like Riker and Troy kind of like they interact with one another. I know their relationship was like on and off, but like I'll be realistic. I could picture Deanna Troy having, or not wanting, but having more than just 2 kids. Simple as that.
Okay.
Like her mother had a baby like in one of the later on in her life, so it's
Yeah.
like it's not like betazoids can't reproduce longer than humans.
No, and I'm sure that in the 23rd century, even the humans probably can reproduce for a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just figuring out what hormones we need to fix.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like, well, the problem is that where they ended up with Thad, I could see that they might be.
That's the other reason why I also kind of see why they stopped having.
They stopped. I mean, they had Kestra, but after Thad, I don't think they'd want to make any more babies. I feel like that that's one of those things that statistically couples are known for breaking up when they have a disaster like that.
Yeah.
They don't tend to survive. The couple doesn't tend to survive the
death of the
disaster.
child.
So it's probably a testament to Troy's counselorship that they're still together.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. That's true. Guardians of the Galaxy plays some funny fast and loose sort of things going on. And you know what's funny? Kirk slept with lots of aliens. Donald says that, but somebody went out there and checked, and it's like that we are absolutely sure occurred. He only actually had sex with like 3 people in the entire run of the series. And it's just that he was smooching everybody, but there's no guarantee that he actually slept with those people. So there's no. The ones that we're pretty sure he actually had sex with were like 3 or 4. So
I'd love to see in Lower Decks that they run into a meetup group of all the children of Kirk around the universe that meet up.
I'm noticing that in Lower Decks.
Our dad.
Yeah, on Lower Decks season 2, I've already found a whole bunch. Just the stills they've released so far are. Yeah, the banter does suggest otherwise. I agree. But the Lower Deck stills are already showing some very funny internal jokes. I'm seeing Ambujitsu from Icarus Factor in 2nd season.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing the Chain of Command 1 and 2 where they took Picard and there are 4 lights. I'm already seeing that set there. But Mariner's apparently just beating up all the Cardassians. So I'm like, it's like just so awesome. It's like, I don't even know what they're doing, but I already can tell I'm going to love season 2 of Lower Decks. It's like, that's going to be so much fun. So, okay. I need to figure out what my final size for print is in millimeters.
So I'm actually making a Florida Man concept piece. I still have the camera up here, if you can see my hand.
Yep, we can see.
But I know it's blurry, folks. Very sorry about that. However, I will show you guys the piece over here.
Yeah.
When I get to the point of me wanting to show it. Yeah.
I want to finish my right. HR departments would have had a field day with Kirk. You're right. I want to make sure I have all of these pieces down here correct, so that
You know what? You know what would be awesome is them to make a series with Leonard Nimoy hinted in one of his lines in the Alpha movies
Uh-huh.
that Aurora and him had children together.
Right.
Like, I would actually want to see a series where it's their child and their child may be like a quarter Vulcan, but he acts like Kirk.
Interesting.
I mean, well, think about it. If
Wait. Uh-huh. Real quickly, I want to just comment on this. I don't know if can you read
I
this?
can read it.
So somewhere along the line, Google has decided that since I speak Japanese, half this stuff has to be in Japanese. And I'm not sure where it got that idea. I'm not sure what that means or why. But this is literally like exactly what the weirdest thing I've got here. This is exactly, it says the formula is to multiply the sensa value by 25.4. And it wrote part of it in Japanese. Not all of it. And the rest of it's in English. And I'm like, wow. I mean, it's okay. I can read it just fine, but it is like the freakiest, weirdest thing ever. I don't even know what to do about it. It's like, it's so strange. Okay. So we now know that we're going to have to deal with the final print version is 140 millimeters. Yeah, see, these numbers aren't even right. 18 millimeters? I think I meant centimeters down here. I'm glad I'm redoing these. I'm like 18 millimeters by 12 millimeters. Yeah, my comic pages are this big, guys.
All right, so this is the problem with me doing the show and me trying to like paint and stuff. So I did the piece.
Uh-huh.
So I did the piece like where it was flat like this, and I'm looking at it from an angle.
And now that
if
you've
you
actually
guys
done
can
it,
see
it's like distorted.
Yeah, it's slightly distorted. The head's longer than I wanted to. The body proportions are a little bit off, but it's just supposed to be a general concept piece.
Sure.
So, how does
One of
everyone
the things
like to
that I
do
have
the
seen people do is they'll draw it and then turn it upside down
Yeah,
when it's still in pencil.
I should have done it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, but it works because the guy's supposed to be a Florida man anyway, so they're supposed to
So
look
he's already
weird
weird.
anyway.
Okay, so what does that look like here? If we were to take the main page here, and then we say new, and we're going to go into millimeters. Just going, like, really? 18 millimeters, huh, guy? Okay. 97, 600. Okay, so this is what the page would look like. Let's go ahead and just paint it blue. And then I'll copy. It's low tech how I do this, but it works. Paste, right? So what we're doing here is just taking a look at the print value and see where it ends up. Yeah, see, that's what I was worried about. we're going to have another safe. Because this right here, I've got to make sure I put this safe in, which looks, interestingly, look at that. It almost looks exactly like the same width as the safe for the bleed safe for US comic books. And that's kind of cool, actually. That means I'm going to have sort of a generic internal safe. Actually, it's about 4 in. Maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll move it down just a little to there. All right. Make sure it is fully to the other side. It is not, of course. It changes very little, but it changes a little bit. All right. So I'm going to put another line in. My pin for this.
Oh, I finally hear your music.
Oh, good. That means something's working. Maybe, in theory. There we go. We're putting in, I'm putting in this secondary safe
Mm-hmm.
to indicate sort of
Okay, that works.
There we go. Now I can take this guy out. And this becomes my internal safe. But I'm noticing that if you take the print safe that we're talking about with maybe I'll actually come down here and move this over here. There's the printers that you were talking about are saying 5.5 inches by 7.75 inches for full bleed. That puts it smaller than the normal manga page by a little bit, not a lot.
Well, they do that for leeway of printing.
Well, no, that's what bleed's for.
No, they do that for their leeway of printing, because they cut it in house. They don't send it to they don't have it in like a large.
I know. But
it's like a going into like a Minuteman press or something like that type situation.
Yeah.
Only better quality printers.
But what I'm saying is that's what bleeds are for. I mean, like I'm supposed to. You're supposed to, with a bleed, you're supposed to leave this zone out here for cutting, so that if the if the cutter gets too close, you're still okay. What I'm noticing is that its aspect ratio is different. So I guess what I should have said, like,
yeah,
their pages are about I don't know 4 millimeters, 4 millimeters shorter from the top to the bottom. That's all I'm saying, is that it's just slightly shorter from the top to the bottom, which is okay.
And I think the reason for that being is I think they may have gotten their measurements for their manga size after measuring a manga.
Yeah. And being off by a couple of millimeters would make sense.
Yeah.
All I want to do is make this so that it is it fits the that. There we go. I'll just call it this. This is, I discovered I'd forgotten why I actually hate doing text in Clip Studio Paint. And now I remember. It always defaults to black for text, which is fine. But if you're trying to do something like I'm doing, where I'm trying to match the color of the blue line around it, you have to, you can't even use the eyedropper tool, because as soon as you do, it switches out of the text mode and returns it back to black. So the only hope you can do is to use, is to match it, eyeball it and match it. Luckily it's all blue line and not like a major issue, but it's still like, for me, color text doesn't work, and it's aggravating. There we go. So there's our 5.5 inch safe, 5.5 by 7.5 inch safe. And that's what that line is there. And then the US comic bleed is there. And so, well, that shouldn't be a safe. That's a bleed. There we go. I bleed. Let me make sure it's in the right spot. And now I'm starting to feel kind of like we're getting really close to the end of this master, which is good, because that means that tomorrow I can actually do artwork. And we'll have a nice new, really elegant sort of master page here. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I am curious as to what size I need to make this, or what's the scale of this. Where's our scale control?
Drawing toddlers is difficult.
Yes. Okay, math people. What is the opposite of 180%? So if I have something at 180% and I want to make it 100%.
Minus 80%.
Yeah, that's not that won't work that way.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
This is why you're not allowed to do this math stuff with me. Maybe what I'll do is this. I'll just do this the other way. It's 11:02. We're about at the end of our show here. Cancel. Not you. You. %55. That's what it looks like. Okay. But I think I also did my safes wrong, so that's nice. Okay, well, let's go ahead and switch back to where we were. Just you and me. So,
It's me and you. And you.
me and you and you and me.
Well,
All
I
right,
mean,
guys.
at least I got one character concept done.
You did.
I'm drawing the character that's supposed to be 3 a lot older than I anticipated, so I'm probably gonna draw some
to go back and
more
redo that?
versions of him. No, I think I may just end up drawing more various versions. It's
That makes
probably what I'm
sense.
going to end up doing. I need to get these concept pieces done and over to another artist because they're the ones going to be drawing the story, not me.
Right.
So, and we still have to get together and find out on how we're submitting everything, and I have to get his links and everything like that for the submission.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because
So-
I'm not publishing this one; someone else is.
No. You just did the footwork.
No, well, yeah, we can talk about that on Friday. Like when you're an artist that actually that's trying to collaborate with another artist, then yeah,
Then yeah.
this is what some people do. Other people don't do it. So, but anyways,
It's all good.
we are signing off. We are 2 minutes past the hour.
Yeah. I'm hungry. Want to go get
Yeah.
food. So
I'm starting to get hungry too. I'm wondering.
it's good to see you
And a
guys.
picture
Brent,
of mushrooms.
Donald, Ghost Hand, you guys are all here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. Tomorrow I'm going to be working, actually, finally being done with this page. I will be working on the master pages or at least actually using the pages and making actual pages for my comics. So tomorrow we're going to be putting pages down. I might be able to do 2 pages because the splash is hard, but it's a single panel, and then page 2 is just 3 panels, and one of them's all black. So makes it easy. So cool.
Bye everyone, and I'm sorry that I haven't actually seen the comics for the comments, Donald. I'm now just reading them.
Right, it's all good. Okay, guys, we'll see you all tomorrow, and remember to keep your eyes in the stars. Bye.
Bye.
Computer, good night.